Well, here we are. I'm Tom Osman, and this is Whatever Comes Next. It's the podcast where I explore the world of underground and independent music making. And on today's episode, I'm joined by Olivia Rose, front person for indie rock band O Rose, who are just about to re-release on its 10-year anniversary their debut EP, That Do Now See, through Antiquated Future Records, which will be out on this Thursday, June the 13th. And in fact, on the same day, on this Thursday, the band is going to be releasing the second single from their forthcoming album, Dorothy, and that single is called The Call. And then after that, the band is going to be touring with their friends, who they've previously toured with a number of times, Future Islands, through North America. And in this conversation with Olivia, we talked about her own musical history going all the way back to childhood. And we went through the 10 years of O Rose leading up to this point now. And it was a lovely conversation and really insightful from the perspective of the experience that Olivia has as an independent music maker. Recording experience, touring experience, and some of the personal experience as well that she had connected to the different music that she made, or that she has made. And yeah, she was a delightful interviewee. And for once, I think I don't need to have a long babbling introduction, and I can just get straight into it. So if you'd like to keep track of what's going on with O Rose, they are most active on Instagram, and you can find them on O Rose, which is OHROSEH. And I'm going to play From, which is the first track from the debut EP. I'm going to play a little clip of it just before the interview starts, and I'm going to play the track in full at the end. And if you'd like to follow me, I'm on all social media at Tom Osman Sounds. If you'd like to see what's going on with me, with the music that I'm making, you can go to tomosmansounds.com. And whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Substack or Apple Podcasts, I would be grateful if you would subscribe, give a thumbs up, post a comment, all these lovely things that people do. And yeah, check out the other episodes on the podcast. And with that, I think there's nothing else to say, but take it away, Olivia Rose of O Rose.
Looking for symptoms of a hole in your eye before there's a hole in your head. Counting your blessings in the time you have left. Oh, it seems like so long, long ago. And I know it's been hard since I left you alone. But you're nice, giving up things in the dark. Harder, you know something's there, but you're not sure what. No, you're nice, giving up things in the dark. Harder, you know something's there, but you're not sure what. Yeah, you know something's there, but you're not sure what.
Hello, Olivia.
Hey Tom, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm really good, yeah. Doing all this, had to update my Zoom, so
The
updated.
usual technical matters. Yeah, my concern is that I've been having some internet problems through the day, so I'm just crossing my fingers that we're not going to get cut out. But at the moment, seems okay.
Looking good.
Good.
So far, so good.
Whereabouts are you right now?
I am actually at in my office where I work at my day job in Olympia, Washington.
Yes. I thought at some point we will get into talking about day jobs because, yeah, I speak to independent artists and I understand that making music is not always the most lucrative thing.
No, definitely not. But it's very fulfilling.
Absolutely. We're here to talk about your band O Rose, and you've got the 10th anniversary reissue of your first EP that Do Now See coming out, I believe, this Friday. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think Thursday, actually, the
Thursday.
13th.
Okay. The 13th. Yeah. I get mixed up with dates, but yeah,
Me too. It's
this
okay.
week, but yeah,
It's
Thursday.
sweet. It's coming.
And then on the same day, you've got the second single of your forthcoming album coming out,
Hmm.
which is The Call.
Yeah. Hmm.
And you're also going to be going on tour again with Future Islands.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Very.
I want to get into all of those things, but first of all, I'd like to kind of go back a little bit and get
Okay.
into a bit of your history. So I understand that you were originally from somewhere else, and I'm always bad with pronouncing names. So I want to say that the name of the place is Asheville, but it could be Asheville. Is it Asheville?
It's Asheville. Yeah, that's right.
Asheville, North Carolina. So can you tell me a bit about this place?
Yeah. It's a beautiful little town, like small, kind of small city, I guess, in the mountains. So it's in Western North Carolina, so the Appalachian Mountains. And yeah, I was born and raised there. I was born in a bed in North Asheville, and it's very much my first home. So it's really funky, like weird artsy kind of town in the South, I would say. So it's kind of become like this haven. It's become a really big queer haven. And yeah, it's always just been kind of this special place in North Carolina.
And when you were growing up, so you said that it's quite artsy. What sort of exposure did you have to art, music, cinema, whatever else artistic in and around the city or outside of the city when you were growing
Wow.
up?
So much. I mean, in the summers, we I would go to, oh my gosh, what was it called? They had like downtown after five. There's always music. So there's like even a drum circle, I think still every Friday night that's happening downtown. There's pretty much music everywhere. I remember just people busking all the time on the streets. And yeah, going to Lake Festival, which is like Lake Eden Arts Festival. Um, there's so much music and art, which, yeah, it was great.
And was that also within your family? Did you have people playing music and or singing?
Not really singing, but well, no, I guess that's not true. Well, both of my parents were big avid music lovers. My mom and dad had a really large record collection, so there was always kind of records on. Um, and like my dad loved like the Grateful Dead and Annie Lennox and like Eurythmics, and then my mom loved Fleetwood Mac, James Taylor. Um, gosh, yeah, blanking on the other ones. But my dad's so my aunt and my uncle were in a band in Atlanta. My parents met in Atlanta, but they were in a band, in multiple bands. But one project was called LMNOP. So that was, they played with like the Indigo Girls.
Hmm.
And that was just always like in the back of my mind. I knew that there were artists, I guess, in my family.
And when you first had that kind of creative impulse, was it through singing or was there something else?
Definitely singing. Yeah. Um, I used to just wake up like when I was a little kid and just have songs in my head and sing. I was always
Like
singing.
like
I was
made up
embarrassed.
songs or other people's songs?
Just making up songs. I still just kind of will sing about like anything.
How
I feel
how far back do you think that goes? Like how early can you remember singing?
like like probably like two or three. I think there's just videos of me singing all the time. And I think that's probably my mom. My mom would make up like funny little songs about stuff as well.
Because I understand that you were in quite a number of bands, or you had various different musical projects before you formed Oh Rose, right? So when was the first time that you really kind of said to yourself, right, I'm going to have a musical project?
I think, yeah, the first time was in like seventh or eighth grade, maybe seventh grade. It was me and my closest girlfriends, and we started a band called the Hissy Fits.
Good name.
Thing. I think actually we realized there was already a band called the Hissy Fits, but we only had one song and in that band. And then the next project after that was in high school, like my freshman into sophomore year. I started a band called Mice Boy.
Mice Boy.
And we released music on MySpace and
yeah.
So like similar to like maybe like Kimya Dawson-esque, I guess.
It's interesting talking to people when MySpace comes up, because people sort of talk about it in quite complimentary tones, like sort of almost wistful, like, oh, I remember the days of MySpace when it was actually really a great place to post music and find music.
Yeah, it was great. You could like design or like, learn all the HTML and graphics, and yeah, it was great.
So that was all in Asheville, right?
Yes.
So then you came to Olympia, Washington, where you are now, in about 2012, is that right?
Yep. September 2012 is when I moved here.
And so did you move to study?
No, I knew people that were at Evergreen, so that's the college here. So I had friends that lived out here, but no, I just needed to get out of Asheville where I grew up, and I kind of just wanted to go as far away as possible. And a room opened up here, so it was convenient. But I'd been traveling around the US for about like 4 months prior. Was living in a camper in Texas. I bought a camper on eBay in North Carolina. And it was the first time I ever used eBay, actually. And so I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And so then I bought this camper. And then I was like, I don't have anything to pull this camper with. I have a Toyota Corolla. And so then I started a band there in Asheville. It was called Ava Leonard. And one of my bandmates had a van, so we like hitched it up, and then we were just kind of like traveling around and like playing busking and living in this camper. We couldn't go faster than like 55 miles per hour. So then we left it in Texas, and I just kept kind of traveling and bopping around. And it was between Olympia, New Orleans, and Oakland where I wanted to settle, and I ended up here.
New Orleans is a pretty iconic choice. So why those three places?
I think I just was just interested in all three of them. I either had like I feel like level of knowing people that were already living there, or and kind of mixed with like a curiosity of like this unknown. They all just had really different kind of textures and themes, and really vibrant, I would say, music scenes, at least in my understanding.
And what was that adjustment like when you moved from what was your hometown? Were there any kind of, was there anything? I mean, you said that you'd sort of already been traveling around for a bit, but was that a difficult adjustment in any way?
No, it was really easy. I moved into a house with my friend who I knew from Asheville, Sarah, who she played at synth in O Rose for, gosh, I think she left in 2020, so like right before COVID. But yeah, I moved into a house with her, and she was going to school at Evergreen. And so it was like I walked into just this kind of whole rich community. And then a lot of people that I'm still friends with now, and then kind of through music. We started a radio show. It was kind of an open mic radio show, and people started coming to that. And that's how I started meeting like more people in the Olympia music scene that would later become members of O-Rose.
So we are getting into the formation of the band now, and I think there's a place that seems to have some significance with the early days of the band. Can you tell me about the guest house?
Yeah, the guest house. The guest house is a place in West Olympia, like right off of 4th Avenue, and it was just this hub. So there's like 7 people living there at any point in time. I lived in a tent. There was a bed in the tent, so it was a nice tent setup. I even had a side table with like a lamp, but just people, bands coming and going, and it was just this really vibrant house. So that's where I met a lot of my kind of music community, and then that's also where we recorded the EP, as well as we've done a couple other projects. I think 7 was also recorded at the guest house as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know, your experience here is probably going to be a bit different to mine, but I've just returned to Glasgow where I used to live. Mm-hmm. And the last time I lived here was 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I'd been back to visit, but now that I'm actually here living, and in fact, I'm not in my house at the moment. I'm in a friend's house because my flat doesn't have internet yet. But when I am back there, it's kind of surreal to be back in this place that I lived all this time ago. And, I get all these associations flooding back for me. Now, I guess for you, you've been living in the same place for the past 10 years, but you are now going back to this EP that you made 10 years ago. I would imagine that going back to it is probably reactivating some memories for you. So has that kind of hit you in any way, like going back to this and going, I'm now revisiting and sort of remembering where we were 10 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. I recently sat down and I wrote like an essay that's going to be included with the physical release. So the label Antiquated Future also does zine. They're like a printing press. That's a big part of kind of, aside from the label, it's more like written word. So I wrote an essay and just kind of a reflective essay about each one of the songs. That was really nice. And it was such a great time in my life. So I feel, I don't know, I feel that kind of in this chapter there where I am now is really kindred to that time. So, there's a lot of joy, I think, and appreciation. And I'm really proud of that EP, and I'm really proud of this decade-long journey that I've been on, and to be able to kind of sit and listen to it, it feels really good.
And it seems like you have, in terms of the band itself, O-Rose, you've kept quite a consistent lineup, even though, if I understand right, at the moment anyway, the rest of the band live in Portland. Is that correct?
Yeah, the band lives in Portland, all of them. So it's myself, Vin, who's on bass, Liam is on drums, Stevie's on keys, and those 3 are the core members. Stevie used to play bass, and he played bass on the EP. And then the newest member is our friend Laith, and he's playing guitar.
And Laith's in Portland as well. So this feels a little bit like a long distance relationship. So how do you make this long distance relationship work, and when did it become a long distance relationship?
Great question. I'm in Portland a lot. And so they all moved in 2018. And so it's been a long distance relationship since then. I would say, when during the peak pandemic, which was 2 years, at least. I didn't see them for like a year and a half. So that kind of timeline just feels like gone in this way. But yeah, I mean, I primarily go down there to practice, because it's more convenient. And I think I'm realizing more and more that I think it might be time to move down there. I think I'm tired of the long distance relationship, but it's been really good. I mean, my life in Olympia is really beautiful. I love that it's between Portland and Seattle.
Mm.
My brother lives in Seattle, and I just think I needed from 2018 till now to really just kind of go inward and figure out like what is a rose as it relates to me. And I think I needed distance from just the band, and like we're all like we love each other so much, and I think that there's also an enmeshment of identity that happens in your 20s, and I think I just needed space. Also, I fell in love, and we are engaged, and our kind of life together and partnership was, maybe I needed to kind of protect that in a way as well.
With someone who's in Olympia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
and we're still together, so I'm going to bring him to Portland too.
And he knows about this plan.
Yeah, he's very, very actively involved.
Nice.
Wouldn't that be funny if he like just found out about this then by listening to this?
That'd be a bold move on your part. So taking a step back to Seven, your first full-length album, Giselle Rose. So when I listened to the EP, like it starts, in general, the EP is quite soft, it's quite subtle, but even within that, like the first track, Prom, it starts out, it's very gentle and very soothing, and then you have this quite soaring part of the vocals where it was like, oh wow, you know, like she's really got quite an impressive range. And then you get to Seven, and I feel like you're branching out in all kinds of interesting directions. And I'm wondering, were you kind of, did that feel like you were sort of pushing at the boundaries of what you could do? Were you trying different things? Or is this just more sort of an example of the range that you had that you just hadn't demonstrated with A Rose before?
Yeah, I think it was Seven definitely was a lot of experimentation. I feel that, you know, with the EP, that was originally just going to be a solo project, and it just so happened that, you know, I was recording at the guest house, and then there's musicians around, like, oh, I want to play on that, or let's try that. And so it's almost like teetering between this like solo and then band. And then with Seven, it was just full band, and we're all like getting to know our instruments. I was getting to know my voice, and I really wanted to just see how far I could throw it. And I think that that's kind of what you hear on Seven is just, whoa, I could do this weird thing with my voice. Like, why not? You know, and mixed with this, like playing live as a band, you know, I played in bands, but really consistently playing house shows. So like that kind of, and, you know, the history of Olympia is it's really punk. It's really DIY, you know, Riot Grrrl started here. So there's like the crowds are, so at least back then was so fun. And just, so I was like learning how to scream and perform and just try all different kinds of things out. It wasn't as like, I couldn't be as reserved as I was before because I was in front of so many people at that point. Like it was just happening.
That makes sense, yeah. So like, for example, with the track Running, I think that's one of the tracks that stands out on Seven with your vocal performance. Is that the kind of thing that you were experimenting with on stage and then you went, oh, wow, I can do that. I want to put that on record?
Yeah, I think actually with Running, you know, that was when I had gotten an electric guitar and I was experimenting with different tunings, so open D, and then I think I wrote, I mean, most of the songs I write solo. I think the intensity where I was really throwing it, like that kind of like yodely of like the run, when I'm saying running, happened when I wrote it, but then it just kind of got bigger when I brought it to the band, which usually is what happens.
Yeah. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, if we're going to talk about sort of the history of the band and get into the next phase, as we're sort of coming up pre-pandemic when we had the black hole that we all got sucked into,
Yeah.
then I guess we're going to get into quite a personal part of your story to get into the next album, While My Father Sleeps. So maybe you could say a bit about what that album is about and the events leading up to that.
Yeah, I think, that album was really hard. I had written a lot of the songs after Seven. And so Seven was released in what, 2015. And so kind of the period between 2015 and 2017 is really where While My Father Sleeps formed. But the title of that and then the first single, 25 Alive, came about after my mom had passed away in January of 2017. So it was an homage kind of to her, but also a means of me processing incredibly complicated grief. The title While My Father Sleeps is based off of a book that she wanted to write, or maybe did write, but I haven't really been able to find any tendrils of it. But I think it was my way of honoring her. That title is also on her tombstone, and it's her tombstone is on the back of the vinyl. So it's this whole kind of story through line. But yeah, a means of me processing grief. And it was really, really difficult to put out. And we put it out in 2019. And then, March 2020 hit, and we were planning on going on a tour for the album, which I was dreading. I was absolutely dreading it because I didn't want to play these songs live. I just was kind of just like, I did it. I processed it. I put it out there. I put it on vinyl, and now I have to play them. I don't want to play them. And so in a way, the pandemic was kind of a blessing because I didn't have to. And I got to just kind of retreat. And I think making an album that so pointedly talks about death and loss and grief is a big move that that you kind of need I needed time to process and not like play and not have it become a commodity, because that's where it was going, and it drove me crazy.
Have you, since then, like once you were able to start performing again, have you gone back to perform any of those songs?
Yeah, we definitely perform a lot from that record. And, so our first time playing live again was in like September of 2021. So it had been well over a year and a half since we had played. And at that point, I definitely had a different relationship to the songs. And I do now. I used to just not even be able to play 25 Alive. And now I can, and it's not as heavy on my spirit, I would say. Yeah, but I can play them now, and it's okay. I'm not in the place anymore.
Yeah. It's a very, very interesting insight, because I think when I was reading some of your bio and I was thinking about this, I thought, oh, maybe that felt like you didn't have the opportunity to, kind of like sit with the album before things closed down. But it's very interesting that it was kind of the opposite, that you were dreading to actually have to do more with it. It was kind of like you'd made the statement and you wanted that to be it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was very relieved to not have to. I was very relieved. And then because because then when I started playing the songs, it became a choice instead of
Yeah.
like an obligation, you know?
Mm.
And yeah. So yeah, I was I was driving back from band practice in Portland um, when Washington State closed down. And I remember I had left that band practice and we were going on tour, I think in like a week and a half, and I was just dreading it. And then I'm driving back and Washington State shut down. I was like, did I just will this? Like, and I'm like, that's so it's an indicator of my ego or whatever. I don't know if that's ego or like self. And I was like, oh yeah, I think that I willed the band. But it was good. I was like, hey, this is good.
Now, following on from that moment of elation, I imagine that there were all kinds of elements of COVID that were extremely disruptive and
Oh yeah.
and possibly some kind of dark times. And we all, in our different places that we all had our weird experiences where we were wondering, is the world ever going to return to any kind of normality? So I read that you were working in a weed grow and studying. What is a weed grow, and what were you studying?
Yeah, so a weed grow, so it's like a marijuana farm, like an indoor farm, because it's legal in Washington State and sold recreationally. So I started there, I think in February of 2020, and it was just going to be a temporary job. Like, I don't even smoke weed. It was, and so when COVID happened, we were considered essential workers. So I worked, I never didn't go to work during COVID. I was in a weed grow in a fluorescent room for 3 years. I was trapped. It was so surreal because a lot of like my friends we all just kind of got jobs there. Just this like place that you could go in between jobs when you're looking for stuff to do. But we were all considered essential workers, so we would just sit around this table, fluorescent lights with huge amounts of weeds, pounds and pounds of weed. It's like literally, it's like my worst nightmare when I think back about it. I'm like, that was so bad. But it was also kind of fun, and it became this like weird little world where everything was happening outside, and we would like watch things on our phone and just evoke like a lot of anxiety. But eventually, I decided in 2020 to finish my degree, and I went to school. Been going in and out of school since graduating high school. But I got my degree in psychology and kind of media arts communications. So I would listen to my books for class on audio, and then I started learning how to spin joints. So big joint machine, I would be like grinding pounds and pounds of weed, and then making joints, and I'd be listening to my audiobook, and then in between the time it took for the machine to like kind of I guess compress the weed down, I would take notes.
This is a great story. This is not a story that you hear every day.
Yeah. And then I finished my degree. So I guess that was the silver lining of that weird place, is that I could listen to, I could do schoolwork. I could really good at multitasking.
That's good. The weed didn't
Yeah.
creep into your psychology study.
I did write about that a little bit. I will probably write about that more later, but right now I feel too.
So you mentioned a day job at the start of the interview. So what are you now doing when you're not doing music?
I work in conflict resolution, and alternative dispute resolution. So I work as a conflict resolution trainer. So I train in communication, nonviolent communication, and mediation.
In what kind of contexts?
Um, so I work, so in the context of mediation, if people are interested in becoming certified in mediation, then I'll help train. We have like large trainings multiple times a year that kind of introduce people to alternative dispute resolution and what in the context of mediating is so we work with a co-mediator model. So there's always two mediators. A lot of the clients that we see, it's also a nonprofit. So a lot of I work with a lot of volunteers, but a lot of family, like divorce. So a lot of parenting plans or yeah, and people navigating divorce. We also mediate workplace conflict, landlord tenant, which is really difficult because the extreme power imbalance. So those are really hard to, that can be really difficult to mediate, especially during COVID. And my understanding, so yeah, because you're, talking about like safety and secure, like basic human needs that need to be like and trying to kind of as a mediator, you're kind of this neutral third party that you're just trying to facilitate dialogue between people. Some people who haven't communicated in years, sometimes a lot of times people only communicate via text message and this is the first time they've seen each other in years. So you're just kind of holding space and there's a lot of emotions that come up and then I train people in that field. And then I work with other, I'll do like smaller trainings just around different aspects of what we teach of interest-based resolution.
And how flexible is that job when you want to, go to record for an extended period or you want to go on tour, for example?
Yeah, incredibly, they're super supportive. It's one of the most supportive. I work with some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life, and they're incredibly supportive of me and my goals and my life. And I think that the work that I've been here for a year and I've learned so much, and I think it directly is, I think me being a musician allows me to be good at this because I'm very comfortable being in front of people and speak. And then likewise, all of the facilitation tools and communication skills that I've learned have really helped me with my music and my art, especially from like a business side of things, which was always really overwhelming for me. So it's really symbiotic, but yeah, they're really supportive of me. And when I came on, I was like, I'm not going to go on any big tours. I don't have any plans for any big tours for a year, at least. Like I will commit to being here for a year and present. And I've fulfilled that.
Now anything is possible.
Yeah. And everyone I work with is just, yeah, they're so amazing. I'm so great. Yeah, super grateful.
Yeah, it's great when you can have different strands of interest in your life and then you can find that they interconnect. I had a very long period of my life where I felt like I was doing all these different things and I couldn't see what the connection was. And I reached a certain point and went, oh, I did these 5 different things that I thought were disconnected and now they actually relate to each
I
other.
think
This is very satisfying.
I'm right in there. I'm at that intersection. I'm like seeing how it all, but I don't know how it's gonna shape out as far as like, and I think that's okay. But I really like it. I like, going back to like While My Father Sleeps. I played some solo shows back in April, and I was just doing kind of just banter on stage, but I was about to play 25 Alive. And, that song, it's just, I'm repeating over and over again, I don't want to feel anger anymore. I don't want to feel anger anymore. And I work in conflict resolution. And like the irony of that is just so funny because I deal with anger. Like I sit with anger all the time and like have to just be present with that. Um, but yeah, it's just silly. Life is funny sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, on this podcast, something I like to do is I like to get into a little bit of the practicalities for independent artists. So you've got quite extensive experience as an independent artist. You've got several recording experiences behind you. You've released various records. You've got your forthcoming album, Dorothy, that you're working on at the moment. I'm not sure what
Mhm.
stage you're up to yet.
It's done. It's
It's
all
done.
right. So,
So thinking about that, or indeed thinking about the re-release of the debut EP, for anyone who's starting out in a band or as a solo artist, doesn't have, as I think is 99% of the time now, doesn't have a record label behind them to support them, even though record label is not necessarily always the greatest thing. Can you give a bit of an insight? What are sort of, in terms of like the time, the money, the resources, what are the kind of things that people need to expect to invest into a project that they want to record and they want to release?
yeah, really, yeah, great question. So with this one, what I thought we recorded a lot of it. We recorded a lot of it ourselves and had just kind of access to really nice studios in Portland. My bassist so the bassist in O Rose Vin is also an amazing audio engineer. So he has recorded at different studios, and we got the Ruby machine where we recorded pretty much the foundation of Dorothy that we built off of. We were there, I think, for 5 days, and it was $800, but that was a significant discount because Ben worked there. But you can expect that if you're going for a studio to go to a studio, like $800 could be 800, $5 to $1,000 depending on. As far as mixing goes, Vin mixed the album, so I gave him like $200, but it was like Vin and I sitting and mixing together, and then um, the mastering was free because we did that through the label. Fred Thomas mastered it. I don't know if he charged them or what, but luckily that wasn't covered. And if that wasn't going to be the case, we would have just mastered it ourselves. So get you a band that has an audio. Start with a band with an audio engineer. Um, that'll save you a lot of money. And then yeah, and then press. Um, you can expect to pay anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's his answer.
No,
It's
absolutely. I'm sure there's no kind of like simple concrete answers to it. It's really just
yeah. It just depends
getting
on what
drawn
you.
from
And
your
I
own
also
personal
have,
experience.
and I also like our last release was in 2019. The land that is 5 years ago, and the landscape of what artists are have access to, I think for free is a lot greater now.
Mm.
Um, I mean, even just social media in general, like you can, if you have the time and energy, you can just make videos all the time and put
Yeah.
it on. Um, and if you have a good marketing strategy, I mean, I would love to be help another artist with their marketing strategy. It's very difficult to figure that out and also be the front person. But yeah, there's a lot of resources, and I think also with that, what I'm finding is it can be really overwhelming how much
Mm.
there is to do and where to start. And like that was always the case, even in 2019 and 2015 and 2014. But what I found with this album, and especially reaching out to Antiquated Future for the reissue, they started as a tape label. So I'm like going way back into my roots. They are a small label and zine distro run by 3 people, or it's a collective in Portland. And they're just the most communicative, like find communicative people that believe in your music and want to support you and want to invest in you and also invest in yourself. So there's going to be a level of, labels are banks, and sometimes the banks have a lot of money and a lot of resources, and that's great. And that also doesn't guarantee that everyone's going to listen to your music, So I just think for me, I'm just trying to make it simpler, like just simple. And I want to release and work with people that are, also maybe have day jobs. So I don't have to like explain this like part of, well, why, like why I can't, why I'm not touring like all the time. Like I'm 32, I'm tired and I want to make music. And I don't want to really be told what to do, but I want to collaborate, and I'm really open to collaboration. So, but don't tell me what to do. But also, like, what do you think?
Don't tell me what to do, but give me some input.
Yeah, exactly.
On the topic of touring, that's another thing that I'm interested to explore, and I have got some insights from different bands and artists recently. How actively have you been involved with booking tours, for example, and figuring out where you're going to play and, putting it all together?
Yeah, I mean, for at least the first, like 6 years, I would say, very active. I did pretty much everything, all of the booking whenever we went on tour. And then I would say that changed once we started touring with Future Island, which I believe was in 2017. And now I do have a booking agent, which is really helpful. And then I will still just kind of get shows through my networks that I kind of created, that I built myself. I would say majority of the shows that we are asked to play are through networks that we have built. So that grind that we kind of put in as far as meeting bands, venues, all promoters, all of that. And now I'll just get asked to play shows, which is really great.
Okay, so like you'll get asked to play a bunch of different shows, and then you can sort of see, oh, maybe we can fit them together in this way.
Yeah, and I think I like one-offs more, or like really short stints. Unless it's gonna pay well, I don't really have much interest in doing like a month-long tour that you or walk away. I used to save up for years to go on tour. Would save up money to go on tour and spend it, and that's really fun and exciting, especially when you're in your 20s and you're just meeting people and it's just like, yeah, this is awesome. And like at this point, I have, no.
You're not looking for that excitement anymore.
It's not what gets me going. No.
Yeah.
No.
Now there's a very philosophical question that I've started asking people. Why do you make music?
Because I can't not. I guess. I have tried to not, and it will not let me stop. Whatever it is, music, art, I think it's the closest thing to spirituality that I have.
What would you say is the most spiritual aspect from it?
The community that it brings into my life.
It's a very concise answer.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about what is on the horizon, so you mentioned that Dorothy is finished, and as we spoke about, the call is just about to be released.
Yeah.
Beautiful song, by the way. I don't think I said that before.
Thank you.
And so you've got the tour with Future Islands coming up. There's going to be a lot of activity this year. I was just looking to remind myself what month we're in. We're in June. We're already halfway through the year. So in terms of the coming weeks and months, what are the main things that you've got coming up, and how in general should people keep up to date with what the band's got going on with releases and tours and anything else?
Yeah. Okay. So on the docket, EP and new single coming out June 13th. We just wrapped up filming another music video for our next track single that's going to be called Toilet Water. I think that's going to come out sometime in July. We're playing Bumbershoot in Seattle at the end of August. And the album is currently getting pressed. So there's hopefully the album will be released and available by the time that tour starts with Future Islands, which is September 10th in Vancouver, and it ends the 29th, I think, in Dallas, maybe. So that chunk of time, October, I'm gonna just chill for a little bit, maybe like look around, see what's going on. I'm also getting married, so we'll be in that era of my life. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna see how it goes, see what comes knocking on the door, you know. Maybe we'll tour next year a bit if a good opportunity comes in. You know, it's not even just like about, you know, getting paid, because, you know, we're touring with Future Islands because we love them. So if an artist that I like look up to and admire is like, hey, do you want to come do this tour? Like, I'm not going to say no, you know. But as far as us planning like a big like US tour, or I mean, unless the album really takes off, that's not on the horizon. But maybe it will. I don't know. Magic is pretty real. So you never know.
You never do know. And
Yeah.
as much as I feel a little bit too old to say things like, which social media are you most active on? That
Instagram.
question.
Yeah, Instagram. So it's O Rose with an H at the end. So OHROSEH. But yeah, Instagram for sure. I'm trying. Don't like my TikTok.
I'm not on TikTok, so I'm not going to see it.
Great. Me neither.
Well, Olivia, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's nice to
And
meet
yeah, nice to meet you too. So I hope everything goes well with the release and with the tour and with the wedding. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to relax in October. I'm just going to casually get married.
Yeah, it's gonna be super relaxing. No, I'm excited about it. I mean, you get to like see all your friends and family in one place. That is so fun.
Yeah. Exciting times ahead.
Thanks. Yeah. All right. Well, catch you later.
Until next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.